Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I want to welcome you to the first meeting of the Village Council of the Village of Estero. This is an historic day, and I want to thank all of you for being here to participate and to welcome the new councilors to the Village of Estero. A couple of housekeeping items. First of all, my name is Bert Saunders, and I've had the pleasure of working with some very fine people over the last couple years to help get the Village of Estero to the point that we're at tonight, the first meeting. Part of the process for a public meeting is just a couple of announcements. I want to, for the record, indicate that proper notice of this meeting was provided. I think from the turnout, you can agree that the public is aware of tonight's meeting. We're going to have the minutes and records kept. Recording of the minutes will be by personnel from the Lee County office provided by Linda Doggett. We have two young ladies here that are going to be helping us out, and they're from it's the controller for Lee County and the clerk of court. So Linda Doggett, thank you for providing staff for this evening. I also want to thank the Estero High School for hosting this meeting. The assistant principal, Jennifer Sulak, thank you on behalf of the Village Council for the Village of Estero for hosting this. And I was also asked to make an announcement for people not to stand in front of the cameras. So if you are standing, try not to stand in front of the cameras. I'd like to take a quick moment to introduce the members of the first Village of Estero Council. Representing District 1, Bill Ribble. Representing District 2, Howard Levitan. District 3, Donald Brown. District 4, Katie Arrington. District 5, Jim Bosch. District 6, Nick Betos. And Jim Wilson with District 7. I'd like to ask the audience to please stand for the invocation. The invocation this evening will be provided by Pastor Tim Carson, the Estero United Methodist Church. And after the invocation, I'd ask that you please remain standing for the presentation of the colors and the pledge to the flag. Pastor Carson.
Good evening to the members of the Village Council, esteemed guests, friends, and neighbors. I want to thank the members of the Council for the honor of the invitation to share in this historic occasion. When I was asked to offer this invocation, I immediately thought of the story of Solomon from the Old Testament. Having recently come to power and being overwhelmed with the duties, responsibilities, complexities, and potential consequences of leadership, Solomon was offered a gift from God of his own choosing, to which he replied, "So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours?" That, I believe, sets a perfect tone for this occasion as we seek God in prayer. Let us pray. God, I lift up the members of the Council of the Village of Estero, to whom you have given the authority to govern. I ask, God, that you would grant them your strength, remembering that they, like all of us, are a complicated mixture of strength and weakness, of right and wrong thinking, of noble and base motives. I pray that you would give them discerning hearts to govern the people of Estero well and to discern between right and wrong. I pray that you would honor their willingness to serve by allowing them to be effective and to find joy in this labor. I pray that you would lead them to and surround them with wise people to help them bear this burden, and that you would protect them from the slings and arrows that would surely come their way as leaders. We pray you would guard their hearts from the fear and discouragement that all leaders inevitably face. And lastly, God, we pray that you would bind their hearts and wills together in such a way that they may serve you, each other, and the people of Estero with character and integrity. In humility, God, we ask that you would make it so. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I'd now like to ask the Estero High School Junior ROTC to present the colors.
Forward, march. Mark time, march. Colors, halt. Center, pace. Forward, march. Mark time, march. Colors, halt. Center, pace. Halt the colors. Reset, point.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Order, on.
Right, pace. Mark time, march. Forward, march.
How about a round of applause for the ROTC? Please be seated. I'd like now to ask Estero Chamber Chairman Gene Montanari and Chamber President Jeff Moss to come forward for a special presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I am Jeff Moss, and with me tonight is Gene Montanari. The Estero Chamber of Commerce and Board of Directors, many of which are here with us tonight, we're honored to have worked with the members of the ECCL, having a very small role in their incorporation efforts. The Chamber Board, its members, and its staff look forward to working with the ECCL and the new Village Council to make Estero and continue it to be a great place to live and to work. The flags that were presented here on the stage tonight were procured by the Estero Chamber of Commerce, and at this time, we would like to present these flags to our new Village Council for use at their future meetings and at their future facilities. To do so, we have a plaque to present along with the flags, and at this time, I'd like Gene to read the inscription.
Thank you, Jeff. The Estero Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, on behalf of its members and staff, does hereby present to the inaugural Village Council of Estero the flag of the United States of America and the flag of the state of Florida, to be used ever-present reminders as the council's duties and obligations in representing the citizens and the businesses presented this day, 17th of March, 2015.
We do have a couple presentations. The first presentation tonight is from Mr. Don Eslick. Known as Mr. Estero, Don Eslick helped shape Estero's early growth into the beautiful community it is today. He is the founder and chairman emeritus of the Estero Council of Community Leaders. The motto for Estero has been a village with a vision, and it is Don Eslick who since 2002 has helped provide that vision. Whether it's architectural design, preservation of natural resources, access to health care, or economic development, Don's influence has helped shape this community. Don?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you much. We're here tonight to celebrate a historic transition for the Estero community. A century ago, the Corrections, no doubt, celebrated a similar transition when Estero first became a municipality. I predict this one's going to last longer than that one. We certainly hope so. Today we celebrate a transition from being an unincorporated, volunteer-guided community that prospered with the help of a community planning-oriented county government to an elected village government where all our resources will stay within the community, and the direction of the community will be determined by these 7 elected village council persons. As most of you know, the last 15 years, the village has, or the community has been directed by 3 different volunteer organizations. The first one, on which I was privileged to serve, was the Community Planning Panel. And it was the one that developed the community plan. It was adopted by the county board in early 2002. And we really weren't operating at that point in time. We were just a bunch of people who were involved in stimulating that. But it was clear that the community plan required us to stay in business. And so the Estero Community Planning Panel was so formed. Part of what they did then was develop a number of changes over the years in the Land Development Code that applied only to Estero. Some of which were fairly controversial, and the county didn't want them to apply elsewhere. They just want to try it out here and see if it worked. And that required us to create the Estero Design Review Committee, which we modeled after a really wonderful experiment in Boca Raton, where they'd had a community appearance board for 30 or 40 years. It consisted of really highly qualified architects, engineers, landscape people, all of that. But in particular, I'm here to thank and congratulate the community, the Estero Council community leaders. The Council community leaders got started when Coconut Point first came to town. As you can imagine, before that property got zoned, everybody was really concerned of what was going to happen and what the implications, particularly for traffic, were going to be. And so we informally organized all of the communities around the area, and were able then to meet with the developers and convince them that they ought to listen to some of our suggestions, and entered into an agreement with them that really, I think, helped to make that the hallmark of the land use planning in Estero. But since then, the ECCL has focused on all kinds of intergovernmental types of things and been reasonably successful in carrying them out. But in particular, the point I'd like to make tonight is with respect to the incorporation of the village. About 2 years ago now, we decided to move ahead on an effort to incorporate the village of Estero, and with your help and the help of the leaders of the ECCL, we were able to get 86% of the people in the community who voted to support that initiative. Rather unprecedented. It's very unusual for incorporation effort to happen the first time, to go through the legislature and all of that. And it's the leadership of the ECCL board that I want to thank. I want to introduce them. And they're the ones that brought us here tonight, bottom line. First, I'd like to recognize Nick Betos and his wife, Linda. Linda here tonight? Linda, okay, and Nick over here, you want to stand up, Nick, and be recognized? Nick has chaired the ECCL for the last 3 years, with me whispering in his ear every once in a while. Done a wonderful job in that capacity. And then Howard Leviton. Howard is our vice chairman. And Rebecca here as well. Rebecca's
Down there.
sitting down in the front row. Howard's our resident attorney on the ECCL. And then John Goodrich, who's sitting down in the front row with his wife Barbara. John was primarily responsible for running the incorporation effort. We're getting 10,000 signatures on petitions that help to persuade the legislative group that they ought to move ahead with this thing very expeditiously, and we got all of their support. And I want to thank Ray Rodriguez, who I don't believe is here because he's up in Tallahassee tonight, who is our state representative and also did a big, important job along with Bert in that respect. Next, Jim Bosch up here in the middle of Jim has served the ECCL as its transportation director, and I must say has accomplished a lot of good things for the community as it relates to that. We still have a number of issues looking ahead, but Jim will continue to help with that, I'm sure, in his new role as a village council person. Thank you, Jim. And Marilyn Edwards and Bill Callahan. I don't see Bill here. He was out in the parking lot when I came in. Marilyn's been a member of the ECCL board for at least 10 years and is our communications director. And so all of the news that you see in the newspapers and all of the other communications that all of you have been getting over the years, and in particular the last few years, the Estero Design or Development Report, that's Marilyn's craft. She's a professional communications person and has done an outstanding job in helping the ECCL become what it is today. I got Phil Douglas and Mary Lee down here. Phil and Mary Lee. Phil's been our environmental director for a number of years, probably longer than he cares to remember, right, Phil? And has done an outstanding job. And I know I can remember the first time he went up to Fort Myers to testify on something, and Phil has a very imposing voice, and he's a big guy to begin with, and all those guys said, they'd never seen anything quite like that before. And everybody always likes to follow Phil in the lineup, right, Phil? Bob Lenish, Bob sitting down here in the front row. Bob's our financial guru and has done a wonderful job and has helped the village council doing all kinds of cash flow analysis and trying to make sure that the community will have plenty of money to do the things that need to be done and probably set up some reserves, et cetera. And then finally, last but not least, Roger Strelo, our community development director. So with that, I just want to conclude by saying thank you guys and ladies for all that you have done. We would not be here but for your efforts these last 2 years, in addition to all the other good things that you've done over the years. So thank you all, and back to you, Bert.
Next, I would like to introduce special guest. I'm going to read a list of names of dignitaries that are here. I'm going to, without doubt, miss some, and I apologize in advance for that. Please hold your applause until I go through the entire list. We have from Congressman Clausen's office, Jesse Perdue, the local aide. The state delegation is up in Tallahassee doing what they're supposed to do, but we do have Allison Hopkins. He's an aide to Allison's an aide to Heather Fitzenhagen. From the Board of County Commissioners, we have Brian Hammond, Cecil Pendergrass, Larry Kiker, and Paula Kiker, I believe, is here also. Lee County Manager Roger Desjardins, Lee County Clerk of Courts Linda Doggett, and we also have Eileen Gabrick and Terry Mallow. Lee County Supervisor of Elections Sharon Harrington, along with Bernie Feliciano and Vicki Collins. Lee County Tax Collector Larry Hart, Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott, Bonita Springs Mayor Ben Nelson, Bonita Springs Council members Janet Martin, Stephen Slakta, Peter Simmons, Mike Gibson, Bill Lonkett, Connie McIntosh, Bonita Springs Manager Carl Swing, Bonita Springs Chamber of Commerce Christine Ross, Bonita Springs Estero Economic Development Committee John Kozak, Fort Myers Beach Mayor Anita Saracita, Estero Chamber of Commerce Gene Montanari and Jeff Moss, Estero Community Improvement Foundation Beverly McNellis, Howard Cohen, John Goodrich, Charles DeRay, Wayne Smith, Estero Community Planning Panel Ned Dewhurst, Neil Nolich, Raymond Daly, Estero Design Review Committee Bill Pricey, Nancy Cohen, Brent Addison, Wayne Arnold, Ron Waldrop, Jeremy Arnold, Alexis Crespo, and Ryan Binkowski. Estero Fire Commission Chairman Dick Schweers and Bill Williams, Jack Linich. Estero Fire Rescue Fire Chief Scott Vanderbrook and Deputy Fire Chief Mark Weilig. Estero Historical Society Gene Pryell, Sis Newberry, and Ken Wisson. From the Lee Memorial Health System, Jim Nathan, Susan Braddock, Dave Cato, Sanford Cohen, and Chris and Terry Hansen. And on the list of former elected officials, we have Ray Judah in the audience. And also I'd like to recognize Daphne Bircher, who has done a tremendous job of putting together the booklet and everything for this evening's agenda. So for a round of applause for the dignitaries that are here. And again, I apologize for missing any, and I apologize for the mispronunciations of several of the names. We do have two special guests that want to make brief presentations. First, we have Brian Hammond, Chairman of the Lee County Commission. Commissioner Hammond.
Thank you very much, Bert. I think if I stand this way, I can see everybody. I wanted to say good evening, everyone. And first of all, I wanted to recognize my two colleagues here. It's a privilege to serve as your chairman of the county commission, but I couldn't do it without such a great set of colleagues. Your district commissioner, Larry Kiker, is here tonight with his wife, Paula, and District 2 Commissioner Cecil Pendergrass here tonight. The other two expressed their regrets that they weren't able to make it tonight, but they certainly send their support and congratulations. And that's really the crux of my remarks tonight. Congratulations. You all made history tonight just by convening. And thank you very much for the hard work that you've put in to serve your community. You know, this, like Don mentioned, you know, Estero tried to incorporate once before a long time ago. And to see you guys now pick this up and carry it all the way through, and to win by the margin that you did is truly a testament to the hard work that you all put in and to the leadership that you've shown in your community. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, we want to wish you the best of luck on a very successful and very long, prosperous future here in Estero. And we want to let you know that we are here to work with you, and we're here to support you however you need us. So have a great night tonight. Good luck on your first meeting, and we're here for you if you need us. Thanks.
And Ben Nelson, Mayor of the City of Bonita Springs.
First of all, I'd like to tell you that I would like to say that this would be the largest audience you'll ever have. But that's not going to be true. That's from the voice of experience, let me believe it. We have, on behalf of the citizens of Bonita Springs, congratulations on our city council. This is a resolution congratulating the citizens of Estero, and I will not read the whole resolution because you have business to attend to. But congratulations upon the creation of the municipal corporation to be known as the Village of Estero. And the effective date is here. The resolution will take effect immediately. And the City Council of the City of Bonita Springs encourages the council members, administrative staff, and the citizens of Bonita Springs to cooperate with and provide encouragement to the citizens of the Village of Estero in their transition to the municipal form of government. Congratulations and welcome to this brother and sisterhood of cities we have here in Lee County. Thank you so much.
Now we'll get down to the serious business of governing. I'd like to introduce Judge Adams and ask Judge Adams to come forward to swear in the new village council. Judge Adams.
Good evening. Could I have you all raise your right hand? Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida. I also hereby swear to uphold the Charter, ordinance and policies of the Village of Estero, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the Estero Village Council, on which I am now about to enter, so help me God. Thank you.
Put a little sentence in there. I know.
And just for the record, I will call the roll of the first village council to make sure that we have a quorum for tonight's business. If you are present, just indicate by saying here. District 1, Bill Ribble.
Here.
District 2, Howard Levitan.
Here.
Donald Brown.
Here.
Katie Arrington.
Here.
Jim Bosch.
Here.
Nick Betos.
Here.
And Jim Wilson.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, your inaugural village council. Now, I don't get to preside over very many meetings anymore, and it's with a heavy heart that I'll be turning the gavel over to the mayor as soon as the mayor is selected. So the first order of business of the new village council will be the selection of the mayor. At this point, I will ask if there are any nominations for mayor. Bill
I have a
Ribble.
nomination. I'd like to nominate Nick Betos, the office of mayor of the Village of Estero.
Is there a second to that nomination? There is a second. Any other nominations? Any further nominations? Hearing no other nominations, the nominations are closed. We'll call the roll. Bill Ribble,
Aye.
Howard Levitan,
Yes.
Donald Brown,
Yes?
Katie Arrington,
Yes.
Jim Bosch, Nick Betos,
Yes.
and Jim Wilson.
Don't hesitate.
Mr. Mayor, congratulations. The floor is yours.
I want to thank the council for their support and their of putting me up for the mayor. I will do the best I can. I will work hard, and I know everybody on the council will. I know one thing for sure. Whatever we've done up till this point is just the beginning. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and we will not be able to accomplish it without your help. We'll need your help and support, and I hope we can rely on it. Thank you very much. next item on the agenda is the selection of the vice mayor for the village council. Do I have a nomination? Yes, Tom?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Howard Levitan as vice mayor.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any other nominations? Okay. I'm going to ask for a roll call, please. Bill Ribble,
Yes.
Howard Levitan,
Yes.
Don Brown,
Yes.
Katie Arrington,
Yes.
Jim Bosch,
Aye.
Nick Betos, yes. Jim Wilson,
Yes.
congratulations, Mr. Levitan.
Thank you very much, fellow council people. I'm humbled by this, and you know that I'm going to do work as hard as I possibly can for you. Thank you.
We have a lot of business to do this evening, but we've had a lot of people who have taken the time to come here. I'm not sure how many of them want to stay. We hope you will stay, but we're going to take a few minutes intermission, and anybody who would like to leave, it'll be a great time to give you an opportunity to get up at this point. However, there's a few things that we have to cover beforehand. Number one, we would like to we have a presentation that Charles Duray of the College of Life, the College of Life Foundation, would like to present to the council. Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council people, for the opportunity to say a few words, make a little presentation. About 3 weeks ago, I was at Publix, standing in line like we do at this time of the year, and someone in front of me was talking to someone else, and she said, "You know, I like Estero. It's brand new." And the first thing I did when I got home is I called Marilyn Edwards. I said, "Marilyn, please allow me to say just a few words. Why me?" Well, I'm chairman of the College of Life Foundation, which has its roots going all the way back to 1894 here in Estero. But things happened even before then. I don't know how many of you were here or participated in just a couple of years ago, we celebrated the 500th anniversary of Ponce de Leon arriving here and going to Mound Key, and they don't think we have history? Well, this is a historic night, and it's an important night. But there was another important night 110 years ago in September, when a group of people then decided that they would promulgate the ordinance and the rules of the then new town of Estero. And I'd like to quote to you a few of the rules and regulations that existed then. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, Robert's Rules of Order shall be the parliamentary authority of the Town Council of Estero, where they do not conflict with other rules ordained by council. No person, now this is a synopsis, no person shall kill game of any kind on the lands, nor take fish within the corporate limits of the town of Estero without having obtained from the town council a license. Disturbing the public peace, public decency, or using any profane or obscene language, or being drunk, or by being noisy and disorderly, or by racing or riding in a furious manner any horse or horses or cattle or vehicles by driving the same faster than an ordinary trot shall be punished. No gambling, nor gambling house, nor bawdy house, nor a house of ill fame or discharging of any firearm from within a half a mile of the bridge crossing the Estero River. It was a small town back then. No spirituous nor intoxicating liquors nor alcoholic drugs of any sort shall ever be sold, traded, or given away under whatsoever name, and no tobacco in any form shall ever be sold within the corporate limits or a half a mile of the bridge. Howard, isn't Pelican Sound within a half a mile of the bridge? I think it, you know. Thank goodness. This was then, and this is now. So how do I know about this? Where do we get these quotes? Well, we have quite a few archives in the College of Life Foundation, in buildings and property, and we slowly but surely give these items back to the people of Estero and the people of Florida, back to you. But one item I came across about 15 years ago, I said, someday, this item is going to have a special import. And tonight, therefore, I'm very pleased to donate to you, the people of Estero, under the stewardship of your council. To the best of my knowledge, this is the only copy remaining of the rules of the town council and the ordinances of the town of Estero in Lee County, September 1905. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Charles. It's people like Charles and other people who are in this room today that have brought us here today. And I'm sure that we all appreciate the history that we have. This has been a town that people have come from all over the country, but have settled here and made this their home, that we all have come to love and appreciate. And we hope that what we do in the future will make you love and appreciate it even more. Before we have an intermission for 5 minutes, I would like to remind anybody who would like to speak on any of the agenda items that there are comment cards at the back of the room, and I believe there'll be somebody going around. They're at the back of the room. And if you'd pick up that card and fill it out and bring it up to the front, we'll have you speak as we get to each agenda item. So I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess now. Thank you very much.
I knew you'd do well at it. Okay, we need bigger notebooks.
Yeah, bigger table.
Yeah, really. Yeah, full bed. Agenda.
Thank you very much. The first thing on our agenda today is the consent agenda. I would ask if anybody on the council would like to pull any of the items from the consent agenda. Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve items 8A, B, and C.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Ribble makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Levitan. All those in favor, so please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
or Mayor, if you could go back just for the approval of the agenda, everything other than the consent agenda. If you could go back and just approve the agenda and see if there are any changes to the agenda itself.
Oh, item 7.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's easy to miss.
Okay, do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda as stated?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Brown. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. I'd like to also, at this point, start off by starting on item 9A, During this process, since the council does not have staff at this point, we have asked various people in the ECCL or other places to act as staff, and these people have done the research in these areas. So they will be acting as staff today. Item 9A is a discussion and proposed resolution regarding the appointment of an interim village manager. I'm asking Phil Douglas to please get up and give us a short summary of the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you all hear me? Well, I don't know if this is on or not. Can you hear me? I can speak louder than the microphone. So let me just, I can project my voice. You can all hear.
Use the microphone. We're recording. It has to be done. Please turn
Well,
it around.
where's the microphone? It's not on.
It's facing the other way.
Thank you, sir. I got to be careful. I don't want to blast you out of here. Anyhow, the process of selecting a recommendation for the interim village manager summarized as follows. We sent out a notification to people that we knew were interested in the state of Florida. We received a total of 11 resumes, and the transition committee interviewed 4 people. The 4 people that we interviewed all were either local or had good local knowledge of our community. And so the process unveiled itself. We actually worked with 2 groups, the Florida League of Cities and the Florida City and County Managers Association. And I will tell you that the committee was comprised of myself, Roger Strelo, and the 3 current council members who were at that time unopposed and therefore prior to their actual election. As a result, the Transition Committee is proud to recommend to the Village of Estero the employment on an interim basis of Peter Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi is a longtime village manager in the state of Florida, and he retired from the city of Pinecrest, Florida, where he took the city of Pinecrest from incorporation forward. And it is our recommendation to the council that you employ Mr. Peter Lombardi.
Thank you very much, Phil. Are there any questions from the council of Phil Douglas or on the item? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment, as I was one of the folks that got to interview Peter early on, and I was most impressed with his resume. He only has ever held 4 positions, 2 of them, one for 17 years and another for 15 years, which tells me that Peter has some excellent people skills and can work with various folks in the community, because obviously he wouldn't have survived as many of these other folks in these type of positions have, where they're in a position for 2 or 3 years. So he to me came across as a real survivalist of being our first interim manager. Just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggestion that according to Robert's rules, we have to do a first, make a motion, second, and then discussion. So not discuss before we
It wasn't meant as discussion. It was meant as questions from the staff.
That's all part of a discussion.
In any event, okay. At this point, I would like to ask, before any discussion is had, if there's anybody in the audience who would like to make a comment about this item. Seeing none, I would ask for there is a recommendation from the committee to have a resolution confirming Peter Lombardi as interim village manager and the custodian of records. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Don Brown makes the motion, seconded.
I'll second that.
That's Mr. Ribble seconds it. Are there any discussions discussions or questions among the council? Seeing none, I would like to at this time ask for a roll call of the council on this matter.
All right, and, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I can do the roll call for you.
Thank you.
Bill Ribble,
Aye.
Howard Levitan,
Yes.
Donald Brown,
Yes.
Katie Arrington,
Yes.
Jim Bosch,
Aye.
Nick Betos,
Yes.
Jim Wilson.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seeing that it's a unanimous, I would like to then thank the council and ask Peter Lombardi if he would come up and take his position at the table. Congratulations, Peter. Is there anything that you'd like to say, Peter?
Yes, I thank you for this honor to be your first interim village manager. And having done this a few years ago in another community, I can assure you that you are going to have, for the next 12 months or so, an exciting time putting this village together and getting it in operation. We're going to accomplish some fine things, and we're going to accomplish it as we work as a team.
Welcome, and it's great to have you with us. The next item on the agenda is item 9B, the resolution confirming the appointment of an interim village manager. I'm sorry, village attorney. I would ask Roger Strelo to give the report on it.
A lot from Bert Saunders tonight, and I'd like to embarrass him a little bit. On behalf of the Estero Council of Community Leaders, I would like to very enthusiastically recommend the selection of Bert and the Gray Robinson Law Firm, in which he's a partner, as the village interim counsel. Bert and his firm simply provided outstanding assistance to the council and to all of you in getting our incorporation through. We had a short time schedule. Many, perhaps most, areas that attempt to incorporate have to go back to the legislature a couple of times over various years. We made it through in very quick order and had a very successful enterprise, very largely attributable to the excellent assistance we had from Bert and from Daphne Bircher, who's here, his paralegal. They were also very helpful to those of us on the Estero Council in working through and selecting the charter that became then part of the legislation and now serves as basically the constitution for the village. Bert is a former member of both the Florida House and Senate, I think for a total of 14 years. He thoroughly understands the state laws which govern how Estero and other municipalities operate, and he knows the agency officials at the state level who can be very important to the village as well. And finally, he really understands the legislative process, which is the process that this council, as a legislative body, must follow. He himself, Bert himself, has served in a number of capacities at the municipal level and county level. He's been a lobbyist for both Lee and Collier counties. He's been the city attorney for several municipalities, including Marco Island. His law firm has a lot of allied capabilities, which are very important. Not only do you have Bert and Daphne, who really understand the governmental workings very well, but the firm has excellent capabilities in areas such as banking and finance, election law, employment and human resources, environment, insurance. You go on and on. So whatever issues come up, and many of these types of issues are likely to come up, the firm has the capabilities to help. The contractual terms that have been presented and proposed to the council members, I believe, are very reasonable. If you look at what other municipalities in our area, in our county especially, are paying outside counsel, the terms that Bert and his firm have offered are extremely reasonable, especially when you consider that all of these others are going operations, whereas Bert and his firm are facing a council that's going to have a whole lot of new questions, a much larger volume of legal business, I'm sure, in this first key year than a city does, which is a going concern. Finally, just sort of in essence, Bert and Daphne really know Estero. They've lived with us very constantly for quite a while, and I would just finish by saying if we were going to start naming some honorary citizens of Estero, I'd put them right at the top of the list. So I'm very delighted to recommend Bert and his firm as interim counsel.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would move that we concur with the report and that we select their firm as the interim village attorney.
All right, is there a second to that motion? I second. Second is Mr. Bosch. There was a motion on the floor to approve the resolution confirming the appointment of Bert Saunders and the law firm of Gray Robinson as interim village attorneys and authorizing the mayor to execute that agreement. I'll ask for a roll call. Bert, I'll do it this time since you don't do it for yourself. District 1, Mr. Ribble.
Yes.
District 2, Mr. Levitin.
Yes.
District 3, Donald Brown.
Yes.
District 4, Katie Arrington.
Yes.
District 5, Jim Bosch.
Aye.
District 6, Nick Betos, yes. District 7, Jim Wilson.
Yes.
Being unanimous, we want to congratulate you and welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. We look forward to an exciting adventure over the next 12 months.
Bert, I would like to ask you for the remainder of the evening to serve as parliamentarian for this meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is item 9C. It's a resolution confirming the appointment of Lisa Pace as the interim finance director. We'll ask Robert, Lenish to give us a report on it.
Good evening. Are we working? Microphone working?
It's working.
Okay, good, thank you. Probably the most important thing to me, aside from the three things that we've already accomplished in terms of the other positions, is finding the right interim finance director. I'm sure each of you realize that being in a position to do trim notices in the next few months, we need to get going. We need to arrange banking arrangements. We need to set up a chart of accounts. We need to have somebody with financial experience to lead us. We considered whether or not we would go out and hire someone from the get-go, but it really didn't make a lot of sense. Even though the charter allows us to hire a person, that would require time. And so our approach has been to find someone who could fill in as an interim finance director right from the get-go, right from tomorrow morning. We interviewed 3 different firms. We actually got very, very fortunate. We hit a home run. We have someone here in Estero, an Estero resident, someone who has a business here in Estero, who's a CPA, and is the former finance director in the city of Bonita Springs. She comes extremely highly regarded from the folks of Bonita Springs, those of you that have read the letter of recommendation from Carl Schwing, whom I know we all respect and recognize as an outstanding leader in Bonita Springs, highly recommends Mrs. Pace. We've spoken with Ken Small at the Florida League of Cities, who is considered the guru, if you will, within the Florida League of Cities about revenue collection and revenue issues within the state. He endorses her selection as well. He says that she is certainly very capable of the position. In the last several weeks, I've had an opportunity to work with her on a number of occasions, and I've been very, very favorably impressed. She's willing to go to work tomorrow morning. She has an engagement letter ready for signature. She proposes that she would bill the council on a short-term contractual basis, on an hourly basis, for an amount up to $6,000 per month. I recommend that we engage the firm of APA and Mrs. Pace in particular to be the interim finance director. Mrs. Pace is here if you have any questions for her.
Thank you, Bob. Does anybody have any questions of Bob or of Lisa? Seeing no questions, I'd entertain a motion approving a resolution to confirm the appointment of Ms. Lisa Pace as the interim finance director. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Yes?
I make the motion that we appoint Lisa Pace as our interim finance director for the Village of Estero.
Motion made by Jim Bosch, seconded by
I second it.
by Katie Harrington. All those in favor of it, please.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, it would be appropriate to ask
sorry.
if there's any
I'm
public
sorry.
comment on
I'm
these items.
sorry. Is there any public comment? We have no cards on it, but is there any comment from the public on that issue? Seeing none, I would ask all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. There was a woman that wanted to talk.
There was somebody? I'm sorry. Please come up. Didn't see you. Doesn't matter.
For the record, this is awfully high. For the record, Martha Simons, former city council person from Bonita Springs. I cannot say enough how fortunate you are to have Mrs. Pace as your finance director. You have a #1 star employee, and she's going to save you lots of money. She's very conservative. She's very smart. She's also cute as a button. And she's from South Carolina with a great accent. She says y'all a lot. But you're going to not find a finer person to work with for finance than Ms. Pace. And I'm jealous. I'm so happy for you, and also want to say congratulations. That's
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martha. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 9D, a resolution regarding accounting and bookkeeping services. Again, Bob Lenish will make the report.
Well, again, another important issue facing you is a matter of accounting and record keeping, making certain that we get off to the right start with respect to that we can begin to open banking relationships, we can negotiate lines of credit, and obviously we need to have someone who will be responsible for keeping the books and records in a very professional manner. We interviewed 3 firms, the same firms that I mentioned earlier, for this position. It could be split. It could be done by another firm other than Mrs. Pace's firm. However, there's a tremendous amount of synergy associated with having one person be totally responsible for all of the financial ramifications of the finance and accounting, and you have one person to look to, and so there cannot be any misunderstanding about who is responsible. As you know from our earlier conversations, she is extremely well qualified. She has a firm that is willing and able to cooperate. She's a partner in that firm, and she will be responsible for leading that effort. She has a proposal for us that her firm, APA, would provide the accounting and bookkeeping function at a cost not to exceed $3,800 per month, with an initial term of 9 months that could be extended based upon further negotiation. So I would recommend that Mrs. Pace's firm, APA, be selected for the finance and accounting function. Here again, Mrs. Pace is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Bob. From the council, are there any questions? Are there anybody in the audience that has any comments on this issue? I see none. There is a recommendation on the floor to have a resolution confirming the appointment of APA to provide accounting and bookkeeping services. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Don Brown, seconded by Bill Ribble. I ask if those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is item 9E regarding banking services. Again, Mr. Lenish. Bob has been a very busy person.
This is my last opportunity for the evening. This is a little bit more difficult. We started out with an objective of selecting a bank that had a presence in Estero that was a national bank. We identified 7 such banks.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes.
I'm sorry. One thing I should have mentioned. We're going to take up 9E and 9F, which are banking services and a line of credit. We're going to have a discussion on both of them simultaneously because they are intertwined, but we will vote on them individually. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I forgot to mention that. Well, essentially, we started out with 7 banks, pardon me, as I said. We sent out RFPs with the help of Gray Robinson. We sent those to the 7 national banks with a presence in Estero. We received 3 responses. One firm chose not to respond. The other indicated that they would be unwilling to respond, primarily because we just didn't have a credit record. The others we did not hear from. So we are evaluating then 3 different banks. So there's 2 aspects to this. One is the accounting, if you will, but primarily the banking aspects of establishing the right bank accounts with the right bank. So you can look at interest income, you can look at fees and that sort of thing. But the main thing that we noticed right out from the get-go was that one of the finest banks in Estero, FineMark, did not have any municipal clients. And frankly, we have a great respect for FineMark Bank and their leadership and the people that we deal with at FineMark. But because of the fact that they don't have that bevy, if you will, of municipal clients, we decided it would be best to stick with a bank that did have experience in that area. In the case of Fifth Third and SunTrust, they responded with very adequate proposals. And in evaluating those 2 firms, if you look at the various income items, the cost items, you find that it favors SunTrust in the area of interest income. It favors SunTrust in the area of fees and expenses. And in fact, SunTrust has agreed to waive fees for the first 6 months. So if you were going to make a decision based upon just income and expense for the bank, on the banking side, you would probably select SunTrust. But there's more to it than that, because if you're entering into a line of credit, it needs to be with the same bank that you are having your banking services with. So we prepared a term sheet which compared the 2 banks, and I've asked Mr. Saunders to distribute that term sheet comparison to you. I'll give you a moment to take a look at that.
Thank you.
For those that do not have a copy of that in front of you, I apologize, but this is something that we wanted to make certain that we had the time to do exactly right and make certain that all the information was correct. If you look at the comparison, the first column deals obviously with Fifth Third, the second column with SunTrust, and it compares the most important items in their 2 proposals for a line of credit. First, it compares the term. They're both 1-year term, so no distinction there. But in the amount of the potential borrowing, in our RFP, we had asked for up to $1.5 million. Fifth Third limited their response to $1 million. SunTrust agreed with the $1.5 million proposal. The next most important thing is you can look at all the interest expense, you can look at what the rates would be, but when you get right down to a 1-year deal, you're talking about what is the cost to execute the deal. And so you look at the interest expense that you would pay for the year if it were fully drawn, and you look at the bank cost to establish the arrangement in the first case. When you add all that up, in the case of SunTrust, you can see that the costs and expenses to initiate the transaction are significantly less than that of Fifth Third. So here again, you are leaning now towards selecting SunTrust over Fifth Third. Finally, if you look at what is the cost if we do not draw down on the revolver, well, if you look at those costs, you'll see as highlighted that it is still less expensive to do a deal with SunTrust than it would be with Fifth Third. This is taking nothing away from Fifth Third. They are an outstanding national bank. They have a great presence here, and they're from Cincinnati, where I am too. So I had a little bit of a bias, but unfortunately the figures are what they are. So in my position, as I look at this from the banking side, it is a better deal with SunTrust. When I look at this from the line of credit side, not only can you have $1 million, but you can have $1.5 million, and based upon the way they have priced the arrangement, there's no additional fee associated with having the higher $1.5 million capability. So my recommendation would be that you select SunTrust, that you authorize the representatives of the city to open banking accounts with them immediately, and that you proceed with respect in negotiating the terms of the negotiation of the actual line of credit agreement for up to $1.5 million. Here with me this evening is Mr. McCoy, who's the Vice President with SunTrust, and he is here to answer any questions, as is Mr. Mitchell, who is also a Vice President, in this case with Fifth Third, to answer any questions you may have about their proposal. Those gentlemen are both here for your discussion if you're interested in pursuing any questions with them.
Thank you very much, Bob. Are there any questions from the council?
Yes. The question I have is for the Vice President from SunTrust. That question is, if we have an emergency situation that comes up that we need funding for instance, we may have to have sidewalks put in on the Estero Parkway. Would that venture into our line of credit, which could be as much as $900,000? And if not, that would be acceptable. If so, then how would we direct ourselves to that?
The line of credit, as I understand it, as being presented in the RFP, was for working capital needs of Village. The line would be available to the council to approve any expenditure that is considered working capital for the Village of Estero. That would be a discussion, that would be a recommendation, I would imagine, from both the village manager as well as the finance director.
So I'm not really hearing it. If you could speak a little louder so we can understand it.
I said that would be a recommendation from the administration. If it was a working capital need of the council, the funds would be made available if that was the desire of the village to draw on the funds for working capital needs for infrastructure or sidewalks in this scenario.
So you're saying the answer would be yes?
Yes.
That you would be in a position to put additional funds in for that particular project if that happened to come up?
Mr. Mayor, I want to make a point of order. I don't think we're using these funds for that purpose. It's operating funds to help us pay our salaries and benefit plans for our employees until we can have our taxes build up to us starting hopefully in May or June.
Well, the occasion may arise during our first year. Through the chair. We certainly have to be prepared to address that occasion one way or another, how we do it. That's the point.
I just want to make it clear. I think what you're saying is that the $1.5 million would be available for what the council decides to use. Right. It's not additional monies.
That is correct.
Okay. One of the things, just for the audience sake, the council or the village does not expect to be needing money on an ongoing basis. However, at the beginning, where we have no money coming in until ad valorem start coming in and state revenue sharing, there will be a time that we are going to need some money just to cover whatever payrolls we have and whatever expenses we have at the beginning. So that was the initial purpose of this, but it would be available for any other purposes that might be passed by the council.
That is correct.
I thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I have a question and a comment. I'd like to disclose that I have a personal banking relationship with one of the two banks, Fifth Third, and that since they also act as an investment advisor for my retirement funds, however small they may be, I need to disclose that before I take a vote on this and have council determine whether or not that's a conflict of interest which would excuse me or require me to be excused from voting.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I understand your relationship with the bank. That would not constitute a conflict of interest that would prohibit you from voting on this matter.
Then my question is to either of the bankers, but you're the bank from SunTrust. This is a 12-month facility, so therefore it would have to be repaid entirely at the end of the first 12 months. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So then it would be very difficult to use the facility for a long-term repayment for something like a capital expense were we to build sidewalks or whatever else we might want to do with the money. Am I correct?
You would be, Mr. Mayor, you would be prohibited from pledging ad valorem revenues for this line of credit for any period in excess of 12 months.
12 months, okay. That's my question.
Mr. Saunders, would you, for my own personal understanding, do we have to identify if we have banking relationships with SunTrust?
No, sir. I think that would be very excessive. Many of us have 401ks with mutual funds and things of that nature, and so you would not have to disclose that, and certainly do not have to disclose where you do your banking. So no.
So we don't have to
no,
disclose
that would not be.
The enormous amount of interest that the banks are paying us on our money.
Now, if you have a large percentage of their stock in your portfolio, then we'd have to talk about it. But no, sir.
I thank you. Are there any questions from the audience?
I have a question and also a comment. Was Fifth Third Bank, a late arrival to this process in terms of sitting down with the fees? And let me also say, I don't have an account with Fifth Third Bank, but as an accountant, I've worked with them many times, and the thing that I like about Fifth Third Bank is they're dedicated to Estero. They're in Estero and committed to Estero. I think that should be some consideration if we're going to try and build the business community that we want to build here, that we look and see if we can't do as much business with local people who have employees living and working in Estero. And then I'd like to know that question. I think Fifth Third Bank was probably a little late in coming after. Did they come at the same time? They had the same amount of time to do that. Okay, thank you.
Bob, you want to just comment on that?
Well, we had sent out the RFP to the 7 banks, as I mentioned, and when we got down to the really close evaluation, we went back for further questions to the 3 banks in particular. So all the banks had an opportunity to participate in the process with respect to costs, fees, expenses, income, and that sort of thing. I would also point out that all 3 of these banks have a major location here in Estero and are all committed to the Estero market. So we felt that it was important that they be Estero residents, that they have a presence here. The other thing that I neglected to mention earlier was the fact that all 3 of these banks are are called qualified public depositories. And essentially, there is a requirement in the state of Florida that if there is public money to be deposited, it needs to be deposited in one of these 150 banks. And the so what of all that is that essentially there are much more stringent capital requirements placed up against those banks which have public monies. And in addition, all of those 150 banks essentially self-insure one another against loss. So you can put, if you will, all your eggs in one basket and not be concerned about FDIC limits and that sort of insurance, because essentially your money is being invested and held for you risk-free. And that's another point I apologize I didn't mention earlier, and one of the important points in selecting one of these three banks.
Thank you very much. There's a recommendation. We're going to take item 9E first. A recommendation on the floor that we designate SunTrust as the depository for receipt of funds and payment of debts for the Village of Estero. Do I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Ribble, seconded by?
Second.
By Mr. Brown. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is unanimous, and I thank you very much. The second portion of that comment is agenda item 9F, which is a resolution regarding the line of credit. The recommendation is to obtain the line of credit offered by SunTrust. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Wilson. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second. Does anybody have any comments on it?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
If I may interrupt, I want to make certain that the motion includes the borrowing amount as well, which is being recommended at $1.5 million.
$1.5 million.
Yes, that's included in my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is passed unanimous. Thank you very much. Bob, thank you very, very much for all the work. The next item on the agenda is item 9G. It's a resolution regarding the rental of office space. We're going to have Phil Douglas make the report of the staff.
Make sure I'm on here. You can all hear me? Thank you. The process of finding a place, I would call it a temporary place for the village council to reside and to conduct meetings, was a process that was looked at for the last 18 months. We looked at commercial space available in Estero. And in addition to looking at commercial space, we also looked at a facility that is right here in Estero. It's the Estero Fire District Administration Building. After looking carefully at this, it is the decision of the Transition Committee to recommend that the Village Council approve an interlocal agreement with the Estero Fire District. Now, Scott Vanderbrook is here, and I'm going to let him come up and answer specific questions. But let me say to you that the Board of Commissioners of the Estero Fire District passed this unanimously. Chief Vanderbrook negotiated the local agreement. And by any stretch of the imagination, it's an absolute bargain. It is a bargain. When you can, this is a one-year agreement. We know that eventually the village is going to have what I call a more permanent facility. But this is going to cost the village $1,380 a month for approximately between 1,750 and 1,800 square feet, 5 office spaces that they're willing to share with us. And that's a grand total of about $16,560 a year. If you can find rental space that's any better than that, you're going to have to look long and hard in Estero for that. Anyhow, they have as for those of you that are familiar with the Estero project, they have a wonderful meeting chamber. We're going to work with them. They've been most gracious in offering this facility, and we're going to, in addition to that, we're going to pay them, recommend that we pay them $1,000 a month to share a receptionist. So, I would recommend that the interlocal agreement that's been proposed would be something that the council would accept. Chief Vanderbrook is here, and I'm going to ask him to come up because I think he might want to shed a little more light on this. Scott?
Maybe no. Mr. Mayor, I think it would be good if the chief explained what several of us who visited the facility saw, and you could detail what uses the council could put to the various facilities over there.
Absolutely. Good evening. Congratulations to you all. I apologize for us being late. We're fighting a very large brush fire out east. We have 7 different fire departments there right now, so that's why we weren't here for the beginning of this. But we've been working with the ECCL for over a year now. Actually, I've been working with the ECCL for about 7 years since I've been the fire chief and anything that goes on in the community, and it's been a great group to work with. And when they approached us in the transition team and started looking for a place, and we said, well, we have an administrative building that we built for future growth for Estero Fire Rescue, and we have some areas that are available. We have 5 office spaces and cubicles, plus our large meeting facility that would be great for their use. Each one of the council members was gracious enough to come and meet with me for a little bit, and I was able to show them the facility and what we have. Basically, all they have to do is show up and go to work. Some of their computers arrived today. You know, there's desks, there's phones, there's paper. It's a great opportunity just to show up and get right to work tomorrow without having to buy a lot of that infrastructure. And I think it's the best government to government that you can do. And when you can work with another government, like we do with all the other fire departments and EMS and government agencies, it really is a win-win for the taxpayer because you're using your own taxpayer dollars to work with another government agency. Nothing to take away from the private industry, but right now it's a good government-to-government relationship, and we're really looking forward to them coming to work with us. Peter was able to come by and have a meeting there already yesterday. Even though he hasn't signed the agreement yet, we let him in and take a look at the facilities, and I think it's going to be great for a temporary period. So if you have any questions, comments?
I would like to make
yes.
a comment. Scott, I think you and the fire department should be highly commended for the great job. It was extremely professionally done. You even worked on the website and the IT system. And I strongly have to compliment the great work that you and the fire people did, and also the fire commissioners who allowed us to come in and have some good quality temporary space for the council.
We thank you. You know, we pride ourselves in being the best, and this is just another avenue of making sure that we're working with the community for everybody's best needs. And our commissioners really, you know, allowed me to move forward with this, and it's a great gesture. Questions or comments? And I'll have my assistant chief talk about the IT stuff. We do have a lot of stuff already set up for you to get going. Questions?
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Scott.
Are there any comments from the audience, please? Seeing none, there is a recommendation on the floor for approving an interlocal agreement between the Estero Fire Rescue District for the rental of office space. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Katie Harrington, seconded by Jim Bosch.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just a comment. This proposal is a tribute to government light. For us to be able to rent a facility and move in for $1,400 a month is really a tribute to the concept of government life. So
I think we all,
strongly support it.
I think we all appreciate it, but we shouldn't say so much about it before we negotiate it with them. We have a second on the floor. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously, and thank you very, very much. The next item on our agenda is item 9H. It's the resolution establishing temporary meeting dates, times, and locations for the council meetings and workshops. I guess, Bert, can you present that? Or do you want me to do it, or?
No, I think that at this point you have a resolution or a list of meeting dates, a resolution with those dates, and of course everything is subject to change at the pleasure of the council. But right now you have an organizational workshop scheduled for March 20th at 10 a.m. And then on March 27th you have a council meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. with a workshop scheduled at 1:30. On April 3rd, you have a council meeting scheduled for 10 a.m. with a workshop at 1:30. And on April 10th, you have a council meeting at 10 a.m. with a workshop at 1:30. All of these meetings will take place at the Estero Fire Station, and there'll be an agenda developed by the village manager for each of those workshops and each of those council meetings. So this would be simply an indication that that's your initial schedule. But that schedule is subject to change at any time that you folks are meeting to discuss that.
For the audience, for your sake, these dates have been set aside so that we have a tentative schedule to go forward. They will be posted on the website that we will talk about in a few minutes, and they will also be posted at the fire headquarters. We intend at the first meeting, which is this coming Friday, to have organizational matters. One of them will be to do the schedule for the rest of the year, and we'll post that also. Yes.
May I comment that April 3rd is Good Friday? Are we aware that April 3rd is Good Friday in most state and federal and even the county commission close offices during that date? So,
very good point, and the council may want to strike that day from this list.
I make a motion we strike that date, April 3rd, because it's Good Friday.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
So moved.
Just by way of comment, we do have some important business that has to take place that week, and we'd like to get it done as soon as possible. So I would suggest that we reschedule that meeting to the 2nd and see if that will work for the Estero Fire and Rescue. We do have at least 2 resolutions planned for second readings on that date.
Okay. I think that the best thing I think at this point would be to leave it, since we do not know if the availability of the meeting room for that date, and I don't think you have the schedule with you. Can we set it tentatively for April 2nd?
Yes.
And then we can make a change on that at our meeting, our workshop coming up. We can check it out.
Yes, sir. We'll change the resolution to reflect that meeting will be on April 2nd as opposed to April 3rd.
Are there any comments from the audience? Yes, sir.
You're going to need to come to the microphone.
Right. And everybody who testifies, you should ask their names.
Yes, and if you would,
My name is Richard.
State your name for the record also, if you would.
Richard Abrams from Grandeza. As I understand it correctly, the board or the council will be meeting this Friday at 10 o'clock, if I heard that correctly?
There'll be a workshop.
A workshop. I was just wondering if the council is aware that the Collier and Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization is holding a meeting at 10 o'clock on Friday concerning 951.
We are aware of it, and at this point, we have not been given a seat on the MPO. That is in process,
but we haven't gotten it yet.
Okay, well, my question was, would any of the council members be attending that session? And it sounds like the answer would be no.
I don't think so, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions from the audience? We have a recommendation for the temporary meeting dates, times, and locations for the council meetings as amended. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I make a motion to approve the amended.
Approved by Mr. Bosch. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. I'm sure this is not going to be this easy a few months from now. Next item on the agenda is item 9I. It's a resolution authorizing the interim manager to make individual purchases of up to $5,000 individually with a cumulative total of purchases not to exceed $25,000 before receiving further authorization for the village council. Just as an informational piece, this would be normally covered under a budget if it was in place and approved. We have not approved a budget yet. We will be working on that shortly, but in order that we can allow our village manager to start operating and taking care of things that need to be done, we are asking for this authorization. Bob, do you have any comments on that? Any further comments to clarify that? Okay. Do we have any questions from the council? Do we have any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the interim village manager to make individual purchases of up to $5,000 with a cumulative total not to exceed $25,000 before receiving further authorization from the village council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Brown moves the motion. Seconded?
Second.
By Mr. Ribble. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is passed unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item 9J. This is a resolution authorizing the interim manager to purchase information technology equipment and services not to exceed $65,000. We've asked Mark Walig, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Wallach, who is the Assistant Fire Chief of Estero Fire Rescue and is their IT guru. He has worked with us over the last few months on the needs. He has also worked and spoken with the village manager and gone over those situations with him too.
Good evening.
Mark?
Congratulations again. Besides that screen, I hope there's no soot on my face, but I was asked by Transition Committee to put together a basic package to start you guys up with, which was actually a little fun at the same time. Basically, what we had specified was a server that you
Mark,
could...
I think you need to talk into the
A little bit more? How about that?
You have to stand aside.
Better now? Okay. Oh, it's right here. That makes sense. The equipment we purchased, or quoted you to purchase, is a server unit that you'd be able to house in our facility, put it on our network, and when I say our network, our cabling, it would be on your own network, your own switch. The software that's needed to run that is in the quote as well. Some of this is already in place for you, so you can begin to operate as soon as you desire with email, file server, record retention. All that is in place right now with some temporary licensing, which once you approve this, I'll work with your manager to finalize to help you out with. I can answer any questions. I don't know how specific you'd like to get.
Are there any questions from the council?
I just have a comment. I'd like to personally thank Mark and for working with us as part of the transition team. This is very complicated stuff that we're trying to create here, and it's all basically for one purpose, and that is to keep the records of the village of Estero as we go forward in a place that is both secure and private and is available to the public and the press, so that we can retrieve every piece of paper and everything will be done electronically by the council, so that their phones will be business phones owned by the village, and their computers will be business computers owned by the village that store all of the data on these servers, so that they are always open to the public via a record request. And that is what's required by the laws of the state of Florida. And we are trying as best we can to comply with those as quickly as we can, because up to this point, when council people are working from their personal phones and working on their personal computers, those records are much more difficult to retrieve. So we would like to start off our existence as a village in the right fashion and be able to comply completely with the laws of the state of Florida, and this will enable us to do so. I realize that $65,000 is a gulp for any of us just starting out in city municipal life, but I think this one is something that we need to do and need to do right now so that we can get things off on the right foot right away. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. I talked with Mark yesterday about the compatibility of using Apple products with the server, and you said there's a compatibility that's fine, there's no issue with that.
From a technical standpoint, there's no issue with it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are there any comments from the audience? No. All right, the recommendation that we have is a resolution authorizing the interim manager to purchase information technology equipment and services not to exceed $65,000 and authorizing the village mayor to execute those contracts. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Ribble?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have Mr. Leviton seconding it also. All those in favor, please signify by...
I'm sorry, Mayor. I have one more comment that I wanted to make that Mark neglected to tell us. And that is that all of the equipment, or the majority of the equipment, is being purchased through the Estero Fire and Rescue from vendors that have contracts with the state of Florida. They're on the approved state of Florida list, and we are then enabled to buy at the prices that the state of Florida has negotiated for these for this IT technology. And so I wanted to make certain that everybody understood that that is the reason why we did not go out for competitive bids on this. The state of Florida has already done that and gotten these prices listed. Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting.
We'll carry on. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? And again, it carries unanimously. Mark, thank you very, very, very much. Chief, I want to thank you also. The chief has asked that the city council people contact him in the next day or so that they can get identification cards for entrance into the firehouse. Also, I saw a picture that came today that the village of Estero's name is already up on the glass doors going into the fire authority. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is item 9K. It's a discussion regarding directing the interim village manager to advertise an ordinance establishing the Planning and Zoning Board for the Design Review Board. Bert, do you have any additional information on that?
Yes, I think just real briefly, obviously land planning and zoning and all of those types of land use issues are going to be very important for the future of the village. And so what this resolution simply accomplishes is directing your manager and the city attorney to begin the process of putting together the ordinances necessary to create your planning agency, your architectural design review boards. There's no substantive issues addressed in there. There will be some policy issues that we'll likely want to discuss with you at your workshop, perhaps on March 20th, but we want to get the process started. So that's the purpose of this. So we simply need a resolution directing staff to begin the process of putting together those organizations for you.
Are there any comments or questions from the council?
This is to facilitate starting the planning boards and zoning boards?
Yes, sir.
Design review?
Yes.
Literally staffing them with volunteers?
And there's nothing will be determined without fully vetting all of the issues with the village council.
Sure.
So this is just to get us started
Right.
in the process.
Yes?
And I'd like to also comment that, and make the audience aware that in the temporary schedule that we have just set up, on March the 27th at 1:30 at the Estero Fire and Rescue will be a workshop dedicated solely to a discussion among the council of the land use boards and the other resolution with respect to that is on the next agenda, which is the so-called ex parte rule. So we will be discussing these in detail so that everybody on the council and the public will be aware of what the proposal is for the land use board and dealing with communications with developers during the process.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions from the council? Are there any questions or comments? Neil?
Yes,
name?
my name is Neil Natelick. Excuse me, Neil Natelick, and I am the emeritus chairman of the Estero Community Planning Panel. And I just want to bring to your attention, I know you're going to be dealing with this on a detailed basis as you come forward, but from my perspective, we've had 171 public meetings now reviewing zoning-related and other issues for Estero. We get lots of comments about the successes we've had relative to architectural standards, et cetera. And our subcommittee, the Estero Design Review Committee, has had about 160 meetings, public, and has reviewed hundreds of projects, including signs, et cetera. So I would just ask you that between now and the time you seriously take this up, to recognize that this is a very important function relative to the future character of our community. And many of us have invested hours and hours and hours of time, and we're not going to stand by and see that go. Hopefully, we'll just continue on. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention, how strongly some of us feel about it, and I hope you'll deal with it accordingly. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, there's a recommendation on the floor to direct the interim village manager to advertise an ordinance establishing the Planning and Zoning Board and Design Review Boards at the earliest possible date. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Bosch. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 9L. It's a discussion regarding directing the interim village manager to advertise an ordinance, the provision of section 286.0115 of Florida statutes, which removes the presumption of prejudice from ex parte communications with local public officials by establishing a process to disclose such communications. Bert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Section 2-191 of the Code of Ordinances for Lee County deals with what's referred to as unauthorized communications. And when the charter was adopted by the citizens voting in November, the charter approved bringing over from Lee County the ordinances from Lee County to apply to the village of Estero until changed by the village council. This particular section, and I want to read a couple parts of it because there's some things in here that make it very difficult, I believe, for a village council to operate in light of the fact that you don't have a large staff and, as they do in Lee County. But an unauthorized communication means communication in any form, whether written, verbal, or graphic, with a, in this case, they refer to a county commissioner, but the logical conclusion is that since you've adopted those ordinances in your charter, that it applies to the village council. Or county commissioner, executive assistant, by any person outside of a public hearing concerning substantive issues in any proposed, anticipated, or pending matter relating to appeals, rezonings, variances, or special exceptions, is a violation of the county ordinance and now the city ordinance. And the penalties are rather severe. There are criminal penalties as well as civil penalties. And the thought is that you're going to, as you proceed to deal with land use matters, you're going to want to have the ability to discuss those matters with members of the public as well as perhaps developers and other people involved in projects. This will permit you to do that. So the direction that we're suggesting is that you direct the manager and the attorney to prepare an ordinance that provides that you're able to have those types of communications. So that's the nature of this
Thank you,
suggestion.
Bert. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Are there any questions or comments from the audience? John?
Rich, I just, Bert, does this mean that the individual council members can have these discussions? Or does this mean that they have to be meeting under the Sunshine Law?
Yeah, no, this would mean that individual council members, if they have a communication with a member of the public, a developer, a property owner, they're permitted to have conversations concerning matters that may come before them, before the village council, dealing with land use matters.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Just, Mr. Mayor, just to follow up on that, and as council has stated, the state of Florida legislature has enacted a statute that allows any of the cities and towns and villages of Florida to pass an ordinance allowing this kind of communication. And we would be following very specifically the language of the statute that allows municipalities to do this and to have communications with anybody in the public about a land development as long as those discussions and, for example, going out to visit the site are all disclosed at the public hearing by each council person specifically prior to the hearing or in the process of the hearing. And I think most of the cities and in Lee County have adopted this, if not all of them, have adopted this way of handling it. The county, for a variety of reasons, chose to prohibit all those discussions with the Board of County Commissioners. We don't think it makes a whole lot of sense, but we think that the Florida statute provision is the appropriate one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, comments? There's a recommendation on the floor to direct the interim village manager to advertise an ordinance regarding section 286.0115 of the Florida statutes, which removes the presumption of prejudice from ex parte communications with local public officials by establishing a process to disclose such communications. Do I have a motion to move that?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Levitan.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ribble. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It passes unanimously, and thank you very much. The last item on our agenda is agenda item 9M, a resolution regarding directing the interim village manager to advertise an ordinance repealing Lee County Ordinance 03-14 relating to lobbyist activities and lobbyist reporting. Bert, can you give us an explanation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and council members. And I think the direction that you're going to want us to take is to deal with one small segment of that ordinance, not the entire ordinance. That lobbying ordinance requires registration of lobbyists, and there are many municipalities and counties that require lobbyist registration. There's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. That way, when somebody appears before you, you know that they're a paid lobbyist, and you keep those records. But there's one aspect of this, and it's in Section 3 of that ordinance, which is really what we're recommending that you rescind or repeal, and that is a record-keeping responsibility. So under that particular section, if someone calls you up on your city cell phone or on your personal home phone, or you see someone in the grocery store who happens to be a lobbyist, and the definition of lobbyist is very, very broad. It's someone who is paid or not paid who is trying to influence your decision-making. So that's just about everybody that you would talk to. You'd have to keep a record of that, and it's a fairly detailed record of that. Now, in Lee County, where they have this requirement, they have a full staff. So if someone calls a county commissioner, they have a receptionist or someone who can fill out those types of things. You're not going to have that capability, and I believe that this would be a very, very substantial trap that you would fall into, because someone would talk to you, you wouldn't keep a record of it, and then you would be in violation of the ordinance. And the violations of the ordinance are also rather severe, and so you don't want to have that responsibility. The penalties for an intentional violation of this ordinance are those as specified in Section 125.69, parentheses 1 Florida statutes, and those penalties can be very substantial. So this will give you the ability to talk to someone in the grocery store who happens to be a lobbyist and not have to worry about making a note and keeping a record of it. So just that one section that we're looking at.
Are there any other questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments on this item from the audience? Seeing none, there's a recommendation to direct the interim village manager to advertise an ordinance repealing Lee County Ordinance 03-14, Section 3, relating to the lobbyist activities and lobbying reporting. Do I have a motion of that sort?
So moved.
Moved by Katie Harrington, seconded
Second.
by Don Brown. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Come to a time in our meeting where we have any comments that the public would like to make on any subject, and doesn't necessarily have to be anything on the agenda. I have 3 cards, and then I'll ask for anybody who has not turned a card in. First card I have is William Savage.
Council members, congratulations for your really incredible task ahead of you. My name is Bill Savage. My wife and I built our house in the Island Club in the year 2000. And we have a number of Island Club residents here tonight, all dressed in red, just to address the zoning request that the Stock Development Company has put into rezone the property that's adjacent to Lowe's and the Hampton Inn. They want to change the zoning from interstate commercial to mixed-use residential and commercial. We at the Island Club and our sister community, the Corkscrew Woodlands, object strenuously to this attempt to rezone. There was a previous plan for commercial development which would have had 1-story, 24-foot high maximum height buildings. Now Stock Development, which in Sunday's paper showed 6 different multi-million-dollar developments, wants to put in 4-story, 55-foot high buildings on top of 10 feet of fill, which would tower over our mostly one-story single-family homes. Stack's plan is to locate these buildings right behind our homes. The previous plan had retention, dry retention and wet retention ponds near our homes. Stack wants many deviations from the existing code. And tonight I gave Bert Saunders a petition with 800 signatures from our communities objecting to the deviations that are requested by Stock Development. One of the things that Stock is including or wants to do, they want to take out all the invasive trees, which probably 90% of the trees, and put no screening between the homes and their 65-foot high buildings. Stock plan also, to us, seems like it would exacerbate a pre-existing flooding problems for our adjacent homes. Stock's plan will also dramatically affect traffic. Their plan would put 900 more cars morning and night on an already crowded Corkscrew Road. You, as a new council of a new city, have the power to do the right thing, to deny the rezoning. Rezoning would set a very poor precedent for the new city. There are 6 new apartment projects that are proposed in Estero, either being built or planned. We do not need one on Corkscrew Road towering over our Island Club homes. We, the Island Club, implore you as a council to ask the county for an additional 90-day moratorium on the zoning to allow you to set up your own land use, which I think you're going to do, your land use committee for this project, which will give much more study, which should be done on the traffic and the flooding situation. We at the Island Club fought from 2004 to 2011 with Lee County over a land use problem. That cost us over $625,000 to resolve. And let's hope we don't have to go forward with more litigation. That's something we do not want nor propose now, but we really need you to take a very serious look at this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As the public comes up for any comments, I neglected to mention, we ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and we'd appreciate that. The next per name I have is Nancy, I'm sorry. Pronounce it? Bakap.
And I'm going to come over here because I really want to talk to you folks right here. The Estero Council of Community Leaders has done a wonderful job of maintaining a very high standard for Estero. We want you to maintain that same kind of high standard as we go forward. This developer has asked for a whole lot of variations, which Bill talked about. As a homeowner whose property is but a few yards from that development, I want to ask you, how would you feel if somebody wanted to put up a 5-story building right behind your house with no screening in between? I really doubt any of you would care for that. And as for the potential for 900 cars coming in and out, Mr. Bosch probably knows that quite a good portion of those would be in that car line at Pine Woods Elementary School every day, which already overflows onto Corkscrew Road. Something to keep in mind when you're looking at that proposal. I ask you very respectfully, when it comes up with your new land use, with your new zoning and planning committee, please keep these things in mind. I'm not asking you to deny any zoning in there. What I'm asking you and your planning committee is to have reasonable zoning in there. That's what I'm asking. And I hope you will follow it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The next card I have is Steve Farraguya. If I pronounced it wrong, is that Steve?
Our city manager would probably do it very well. He's Italian. There is going to be committees. You want input from the people in Estero. Are we to show up at your meetings and you're going to appoint committees? How are you going to be doing this?
I believe the council will be meeting on Friday, and that's one of the topics.
So that'd be a first time to show up at one of those meetings?
Where you can show up. We're going to be discussing how that's going to be done and
Okay.
how it will be, what kind of committees and how they will be manned.
Okay.
So I can't give you the answer yet because we haven't discussed it.
Okay, but it'd be a good idea to show up to one of those meetings.
Or we will be advertising what we'll be looking for also, and it'll be on the website.
Okay, good.
Are there any other questions? I have no other cards. I will ask the council members.
Nope, we have one more.
Item.
And if she could state her name and address for the record.
My name is Beverly McNellis, 22819 Forest Ridge Drive. No one here, nor is it on here, what is the new website for the village? And when will each of the council member and support staff have their own individual email address for village communications?
The website is www.villageoferofl.org. That's the temporary website that we have in place now. We will be looking at whether we'll be taking that one over and enlarging it or getting another website. But for the time being, that is it. As far as your answer on the email addresses, as soon as the village will be able to have a server to store and keep our website addresses, we will make those known on the website also.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Through the good offices of Estero Fire and Rescue, the email addresses have been set up. Each of us, when we get our badge, will be asked to provide passwords for them, but they will be the last name of the particular council person at Estero, villageoferofl.org. So my email address will be levitan@villageoferofl.org. All of the email addresses will then be posted on the new website and probably on the Estero Today website as well, since they're going to mirror that for a while, as most of you are used to finding information there. But as soon as we each individually arrange with the fire department, they have set up a virtual server to carry us through until such time as the village's servers are set up.
Yeah, and again, just for the record, so Sheila, if you identify yourself for the record.
Mark Wallach, Estero Fire Rescue, this is the fire chief. Just to clarify that, it is the last name at the villageoferofl.org. They are live, they can receive, and they are archiving. In addition to that, there's been an alias set up for each of you by your district number. So District 1 at villageoferofl.org all the way through 7. And I'm sure I missed the first part of the meeting, but I'm assuming Mr. Lombardi is the city manager. Okay. And I will meet with him to get his set up as well. So the district number at the villageoferofl.org or last name. And they are live.
Thank you very much, Mark. Now that we've coming towards the end of the meeting, I will give an opportunity for each of the council people, council persons, to make any comments or remarks that they'd like. Bill?
I'll pass.
I'm good.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming this evening. It's hopefully exciting for you as it is for us. It's a terrific opportunity we all have. And a couple of you have already asked me what you can do to help and volunteer, and I, for one, really appreciate it, and I'm sure that the rest of my colleagues do too. Thank you.
Katie?
Thank you for coming and participating with us tonight. It's greatly appreciated.
I would just like to say that the process that we have to go through is not going to be a very simple one. So I'm sure all of you realize that. And so I just hope you'll be patient with us, get through it, but we'll go through it. And once we get through it, we'll be the best city that's Southwest Florida.
Jim?
I also would like to add my thanks. Very impressive, the turnout here tonight, and the people that are showing a continued interest in exactly what we're trying to do. And I think that we're going to have some very interesting times as our red-shirted friends have brought us. I remember some of my experiences up north, and I was telling my wife that those are the meetings that go to 1 and 2 in the morning. So, but we look forward to working with all of you, and it's a very exciting time for all of us. Thank you.
I also would like to thank everybody for attending tonight, for their support over the last 2 years. Again, I want to reiterate that what we're trying to do is going to be a long process. The first 6 to 8 months is going to be filled with many, many activities, and we're going to reach out as best we can to all of you to keep you involved and to hear what you want, because this is going to be your city. It's not ours. I would ask if the village manager has any comments or anything you'd like to say?
Just thank you for your vote of confidence. I look forward to working with you. And just to let the folks of Estero know that we are going to operate as your government, and the doors to your staff, my office, will be open to you whenever you need to come in and talk or call.
Just for your own information, as of Thursday morning, Peter will be on the job. He's taking care of some personal items tomorrow, but he'll be there on Thursday morning.
Yes.
Bert, do you have any comments?
Just a couple quick things. I also want to thank you for your vote of confidence in our law firm, Gray Robinson. There are going to be times when you're going to have some questions raised, whether something's a sunshine issue or a public records issue, any substantive issues. And I would encourage you, whenever you have any question at all, give us a call, and we'll give you good advice. One thing I will tell you, when you're operating under the advice of counsel, that gives you a great deal of protection also. So if there's a sunshine law, a public records issue, if we make a mistake, it's on us. But if you ask us, and we'll make sure that you don't have any problems. I view my job as helping you accomplish your goals and also keeping you out of any trouble. So I look forward to working with you.
I hope he has an open line. I'll be on the phone all the time. I'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening, and I hereby adjourn this meeting.